Cool. Well, thank you, everybody. Many of you know me, I'm Steve DeLay. I appreciate all you guys signing on. There's a number of toolkit teams, a number of people I've seen and met throughout the industry. We wanted to do this webinar to introduce you guys to some new ideas, new things that we did in Macon, Georgia. And I am going to be the first person to say I am not the expert on how to do that. But Rob Cressy and Tyler Vertin. Rob is the head of Bacon Sports. He is a social media and marketing expert. And Tyler is the director of marketing for the Macon Bacon and the director of marketing for the Ultimate Toolkit, all the various Ultimate Toolkit programs and offerings we have. So the idea behind this webinar is to show you what we did, how we did it, how our digital ticket sales class works, and see what you guys have as questions and help you move the process along. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Rob and turn it over to Tyler to have them explain the strategy and the process.
Happy Tuesday, everyone. Super excited for you here. So I'm going to be taking us through this. And first off, if you wouldn't mind muting yourselves for this, that way we've got a bunch of different people on here. That way we don't get any interference. We do want to make this interactive, but we're sort of going to do a few different things. One, we want to deliver value to you. So what we're going to be jamming about today is how to sell tickets and engage fans during this pandemic. 5 things that we're specifically going to talk about: how to sell tickets right now, how to create highly engaging social content, how to do more with less, what opportunities are currently in front of you, and the mindset for forward-thinking teams. So what we're going to do is we're going to do this through a unique perspective of the lens that I have. I'm the founder of Bacon Sports. We are a content studio that specializes in fan engagement and content creation. And we're also going to do it through the lens of the Macon Bacon, what Tyler's experiencing, as well as what Steve's experienced from the owner level, because we want to give you the various ways to say, all right, how are we thinking about these things? And then what can you do to deliver growth on your end? So up next, Tyler, I'll let you just sort of introduce yourself.
All right, everyone. Name is Tyler Vertin, like Steve said, Director of Marketing for the Ultimate Toolkit with Steve and also with his team, the Macon Bacon. Going into my 3rd season here down here in Macon. We were able to play this summer, which was fantastic. So hopefully we'll be able to answer some questions, give you some insight of what it was like this year trying to sell tickets and kind of create content during a pandemic, because it was a very unique and different year, as everyone's been saying. So I'd love to be able to help answer questions and give you some insight of some ideas that we use, what worked, what didn't work, to help you sell some tickets and engage your fans and in following on social media.
Cool. So with all of this, let me get this spotlight over here. There we go. With all of this, like I said, we are going to make this interactive and we're going to make this very formulaic. If you have any questions while we're talking about all of this stuff, drop into the chat right there. Feel free to ask the question and we'll make this as real time as we can for you. So definitely feel free to do that. And then at the end of this, what we'll do is about 15 minutes of Q&A. There's a lot of things that we're going to be sharing here. I would highly recommend taking notes because this is very value driven. What we are going to be sharing comes straight from the course that we created, and we created this for you specifically. We saw the need in the marketplace. Hey, there's not a lot of resources out there for teams, leagues, and organizations to help them engage their fans, create better content, and sell more tickets. So that's what we're going to help you do. So let's start with this. What Macon Bacon is currently doing and what their mindset is for forward-thinking teams. And Steve, I'll start with you because I think it's an important thing to start at the top because everything trickles down from there. And you've been very forward-thinking in our entire relationship, and it even starts from when we worked together to create the social media strategy for Macon Bacon that Tyler then used. Can you expand a little bit more on your forward-thinking mindset?
Sure. Our idea from day one, the Bacon we're about to finish our 3rd season. And when we launched it in the summer of 2017, or the fall of 2017, I knew we weren't going to go in with a huge advertising budget. We were a brand new team playing in a 90-year-old stadium in a brand new market, but we weren't going to put the resources and tens of thousands of dollars behind straight up advertising. One, because I'm not a huge fan of radio and TV and billboards because it's too hard to track. And two, quite frankly, I'm a cheap bastard and I wasn't going to make that kind of investment. So what I got involved in or started to dig around, and we hired Tyler first. And Tyler had been an intern at our league office. And quite frankly, Tyler, and he didn't tell me this at the time, but he hadn't even finished college yet. So we hired him. And the idea being he was going to learn social digital media. He was going to learn email marketing and everything else we could do. And quite frankly, I was not real knowledgeable of it. And Rob connected with me on LinkedIn. Our only connection at the time was we both went to Miami of Ohio, 10 years or so apart. But I started talking to him about strategy and how teams typically have failed to use social media to really monetize it. And I do a lot of consulting work. So we wanted to take social and digital media strategy and actually turn it into legitimate, real followers who were going to buy things from us, buy tickets, buy merchandise. So that's where Rob and I put together a kind of an outline concept. And I said, okay, Rob, you're going to teach Tyler. I'm not 21 years old. I'm not even close to it, but Tyler is. Tyler will grab it. We want Tyler from day one to build our voice, our presence, our brand on social media, which in turn, with the right ticket strategies, will turn us into successful on the ticket sales side. Way different than what I had been doing for years, which was a lot more direct response advertising, a lot more email marketing. I knew we had to, in a way, get people following us, paying attention to us without all that mass media. And that's where this came into fruition. And Tyler became the guy to basically execute what you had taught him.
All right, Tyler. So now let's move this over to your end, because we then worked together to build this social media strategy. And one of the things that was unique about this situation was we started from zero. There wasn't even a team name. And the reason I want to mention this is there's a lot of excuses for why we can't do things now. I don't know what to do on social. I've never created video before. I've never done live streaming before. We've never done paid social before. There's a myriad of excuses for why things cannot happen. But guess what? We decided we were going to focus on what we can control and what we can do to build an engaged community and also great fun content. Because one of the big challenges that I've always seen in the industry is a lot of teams and leagues just say, buy what I'm selling, buy what I'm selling, and they hammer that over your head. But guess what? When you see that same message, and that's the only message, that's not nearly as effective as sort of this well-rounded brand voice community-driven strategy. So can you talk a little bit more about it from your end, Tyler?
Yeah, so like Rob said, we started from zero. When I got the reins to all the social media, there was no team name. We never played a game. There's no content there. So when we started, we really had to start developing the framework of how we're going to strategize our social media across all the platforms and the different content ideas, which we really get in depth to in this course of really just figuring out what we're going to post, when we're going to post it, and testing a bunch of different things to figure out what our fans like. So from day one, we just kind of built out a schedule. Like we said, from zero, we worked with what we had. And then once we had a team name, we really built off the fun stuff that you can do with bacon and food, Kevin Bacon, and it continued to grow from there. So we put a lot of legwork in at the beginning to know that the content would come, but we wanted to make sure we built the structure around it. And I think a lot of teams who already exist, they already have content, playing games and have stuff. Makes it that much easier. It just makes you a lot more organized and structured and feeling like you have a good handle on what you're doing. And I'd like to just continue off Rob said of, a lot of teams and the idea of social media is like, well, we're just going to use it to sell tickets. That's just not a really good philosophy to go with. I really think that Gary Vee is a great book and a great idea. Gary Vee is a well-known social media influencer. His book's called Jab, 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 Right Hook. And basically what that means is your jabs are your fun, engaging content, stuff that people like, make them want to follow you. Might not be related to selling tickets, but it's going to get them to associate with your brand. And then when you ask for that right hook, it's that ticket sales ask, trying to get them to buy. It makes it a lot easier because they're more engaged with your brand. They understand who you are, and they feel more related to you, and they don't just feel like you're hitting them over the head all the time. So I think the philosophy you're learning with all this, and what Rob taught me and what we've learned along the way is social media is not just all about selling tickets. It should be part of it, and there's a way to do it correctly, but building your brand and getting your voice out there with the engaging stuff and getting it structured is extremely important. And doing it from day one and making with absolutely nothing means that it's completely possible for any team right now to pick up and go from there.
Cool. So here's what I want to do is Tyler mentioned something very important: structure. Structure is the key to success in everything that we're talking about, because so often in social, we just see this as we can post whenever we want on so many different platforms. How do we know what to do? What we want to do is create a repeatable process that is easy to follow and to execute. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually show you what this looks like inside of our course. Why is this important? Because it's the exact same process that I took Tyler in the Making Bacon through. So are you guys able to see that, Tyler? Are you able to see my screen? Cool. Awesome. So what we have here is the digital ticket sales course that we created. And what we went ahead and did was break this down into easily digestible lessons for you to execute, because we wanted to remove all overwhelm. So regarding what Tyler's talking about here, boom, we got here, lesson 1, social media goals, defining key audiences, brand voice. So what we did is we made sure to segment out each of the specific areas, because we don't expect you to do all of this in one day. Quite frankly, this is going to take a month or 2 months, because this is foundational. Think of it like building a house. Could you build a house without a blueprint? Sure. Would that be a good house? No. Would it get built quickly? No, it would not. However, you bring in the right blueprint and you're like, all right, let's build that foundation. That's what each of these different things are, because it builds on top of it. And oh, by the way, here's another very, very important point about why you need a written social media strategy, because everyone working in your organization is not always going to be there. So think about it. When maybe you've got a marketing director right now, 1 year from now, they might not be there. Do you want to start back over at 0 and try and figure it all out? Or would you much rather just open it up and be like, hey, here's our brand voice. This is what we sound like. So we've got brand voice, the strengths and weaknesses of your team, content buckets. This one's probably the most important one that's out there, or one of the various ways that you talk to your audience. What are the things? The content mix, photo, video, meme, text, all the different ways that you can create. Then we actually break this bad boy down to the strategy by platform. So if you're on Facebook, we want to know how to engage your audience on Facebook. You're on Twitter, boom, you need to know how to engage them there. Why is that important? Because the teams and leagues and companies that try and do one thing and make it an approach for all platforms will not win. Why? Because there's a different level of expectation for each platform you're on. For example, Twitter is way better for real-time engagement than Facebook or Instagram is. And then you look here, we help you create an editorial calendar, content promotion. Hey, how in the world are you going to promote all of this different stuff, all the way down to the reporting? So what we tried to do is give you the structure that we know works to allow you to create a system for your marketing and your team that is going to allow you to succeed. Tyler, is anything that you wanted to add in terms of the structure side of thing that I just mentioned?
No, I think you have it all covered there. I mean, just repeating it really gives you a great outline of understanding everything you need to know to keep yourself organized. And we give great examples. We talk about what things we do at the Making Bacon, so you're not just going in, listening to what we have to say. We actually give you real live examples of what we do at the Making Bacon to kind of give you something to work off of. So I think it really helps you get started with what you have for the structure there.
Cool. So now let's move to the next thing. Yeah, go ahead, Steve.
From an owner's perspective, or from a top management perspective, most of the top management of sports teams or owners are older. They don't really understand the impact social media has. So if you're a marketing director, what happens a lot of times is teams will essentially say, yeah, we'll give that to an intern, or do that in your free time whenever you have a chance, because we really got to focus on other things. And one of the things that I learned right up front from Rob and from Tyler in the execution is, as you cultivate those thousands upon thousands of followers and build that brand, I can't tell you how many times in Macon I was in meetings and people in their 50s and 60s who I don't even think know what Twitter and Facebook and Instagram are, were saying, oh my gosh, I love your back and forth with the Savannah Bananas. Or that meme you just posted last week was hysterical. That became our brand. And quite frankly, it was free. So if you're wondering, as you look at this and listen to what we're saying, is how do you go communicate this to your bosses and to your owner that you need to spend the time and energy to build this? I can assure you this first part is hugely important to impact the second part, which is turning it into revenue in some way, shape, or form, monetizing it.
And yes, and one thing for that for you, Steve, for those who did not invest in digital pre-pandemic, rut-row, because guess what happened when all of a sudden there's no longer fans in the stands and we're now in this digital world? It is the companies and teams and leagues that are digital are going to be the ones to succeed. So it's like, when is the best time to plant a tree? 20 years ago. When's the second best time? Right now. Even if you have not done it, you've got to start doing it, because digital is only going to continue to heighten. I mean, think about this. How many of us have a phone within arm's reach right now? This is your opportunity to make more fans of what you do. So you can either mail it in, but you wouldn't mail in on one-on-one interaction in person. So why would we do that digitally when that's the way that everybody communicates? So what we're going to talk about now is how to sell tickets right now. And once again, Steve, I'm going to start with you, because at the top of the organization, you did something that I think was extremely wise. You invested in the knowledge to learn how to sell tickets digitally via Facebook advertising, and help teach Tyler that as well. So can you give some insight into that real quick?
Yeah, and this came about completely randomly. I was trying to dig around and say, geez, if we're only going to have a $4,000 or $5,000 ad budget, how do we do this wisely? And I came across a guy named Rick Mulready, who teaches Facebook advertising to small businesses. So I started nosing around, learned a little bit more about it. It turns out he had a conference. So I went to his conference. It was in San Diego. It cost $1,000 or something like that, plus the travel. It's 40 small business owners all sitting in a room together. Rick Mulready says, all right, before we get started, how many people in this room, when you do Facebook ads, all you do is boost your posts? Every hand went up, including mine. And he said, that's the dumbest thing you can ever do. That's an utter waste of money. And what we're going to cover in the next 2 days is how you can do it better. So you can imagine he immediately had everybody's attention. I bet if I asked everybody on this call how many people merely boost their Facebook posts, probably 3/4 of you would do the exact same thing. So I went through his class, and then I signed up for another online class, and I came back from that conference. It was in early December, and I remember I told Tyler, I said, Tyler, you absolutely positively have to finish this online class during the Christmas holiday, and you don't have a choice. And it was 91 modules. And he went through it all, and we turned him loose starting in January with that $5,000 ad budget, and generated $125,000, $130,000 in ticket revenue through solely doing Facebook advertising. It was an unbelievable ROI for us, and it was all because of Tyler really taking and learning how to use that stuff from the Rick Mulready class, which is what we've turned into this class.
Steve, can you say that number again, just so that we all heard that correctly, the ad budget to the return?
Yeah, I can tell you that when we first launched the Making Bacon, I met with the radio stations, the TV stations, the newspaper, and they all said, great, what's your ad budget? And I said, we don't have one. They said, what do you mean you don't have one? I said, we're a summer collegiate baseball team. We can't afford to do all that stuff. By the way, we don't have any way to produce it either. So our ad budget is $5,000. We're going to put it all into digital advertising. And that digital advertising in our first year tracked $125,000 in ticket 5-game plan sales, 10-game plan sales, and single game sales. So if your owners are asking you about the worthwhile investment in really building your social media following and then turning that in, monetizing it, send them my way, and I will tell them about, for every dollar I gave Tyler to spend, he gave me $25 back.
That is a nice return. So Tyler, now we're going to move this over to your end, because you're now the one learning and executing this Facebook advertising. So once again, you're the marketing director, you're seeing the social side, and now we're going to add on the paid amplification side of things. So take us into your experience.
Yeah, so I remember when we came through and Steve gave me the course. It was a lovely Christmas present from Steve to take over the holiday break, but I'm from the middle of nowhere in Michigan, and there's a lot of snow outside, so I had to stay inside anyway. So it was a great opportunity to learn and grow. And when I was going through the course, going through the first time and going through it on my own, and not being any sports examples. It was a little difficult, but I was able to figure it out and kind of rewatch some of the things and teach myself how to do everything that in Rick Mulready's course in the 91 videos that I had to watch. And like I said, it was a little bit difficult. I went through, I'm like, man, I wish I had some examples of how this could relate to selling tickets or how this could relate for a sports team. And that's kind of where this course came from, is kind of being able to give you some real live sports and ticket examples from us and how we do it to really help you grasp the concept. So being able to learn how to create your business page, how to put a Facebook pixel on, how to retarget people, how to find new people, how to find leads, how to collect information, and how to properly use content. That's everything that I got to learn through that course, and it's tremendous information. Like Steve said, when we first were just boosting posts, that's just a drop in the bucket compared to what you can really be doing on Facebook advertising. So this course really does a great job of laying it all out, getting very detail oriented, giving you examples, and being not overwhelming amount of information to be able to teach you a good starting point for all this stuff.
Here's something that's important. So you mentioned you had to go through a 91 module video course. One thing that I learned, more isn't always better. If we had said, hey guys, we've got a 200 module social media course for you, does that mean that it's better? No, 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 no. We are the ones who consume as well. We want to make this as easy for you as possible, because execution is what's going to separate those who do from those who don't. And what we don't want is overwhelm, because we already know the excuses that are going to be coming. We don't have the time. We don't have the resources. We don't have the knowledge. But most specifically, we don't have the time. You know what? I'm doing a lot of different things. I'm doing social. I'm doing the commentating, all of this. We get it. So we wanted to make this as easily digestible for you as possible. So in these videos that we created, they're anywhere from 1 minute to, at tops, maybe 10 minutes. Like, we want this where in between meetings, you could watch one of these, boom, do an action item, rinse and repeat over the course of 30 days or 60 days there. So what I'm going to show you here now is the paid social side of things. And Tyler, Steve, can we see my screen?
Yep.
Yes.
All right, cool. And what we wanted to do was take everything that Steve and Tyler learned from Rick and apply this to what's going on in your world as a team or a league or an organization. And you didn't necessarily need to have the knowledge of this, because we want to take you step by step. So what we do is we start with philosophically, hey, why do you need to be doing this? And then we start setting a baseline all the way to creating pixels and different audiences, these things that you don't even need to understand right now. Because what Tyler and I do is we work together to say, listen, here is what is most important for you to know and do so that you can use Facebook advertising and see the type of return that the Make and Bacon have. We're not trying to give you all the bells and whistles. We can find another masterclass, or crap, we can create another masterclass for you. What we wanted to do was solve your problem for you. And the best way that we can do it is to say, here's this step. So what we end up doing is screen sharing exactly the process. I wonder if this is actually going to, oh, boom. Look at this. So here's an example how to create an audience based on video views. And let me see if I can make sure to mute this so we're not going to hear this. But giving you an example, what we'll do is actually take you step by step. So right here in this video, this is the Make and Bacon ad account that you're seeing. So we use real world examples that say, here's how Tyler and the Make and Bacon are creating audiences. And Tyler and I are up here in the corner narrating this entire thing. So what you can do is then, as you're in your ad account, you can literally go, click this button, create exactly what we're doing. We wanted to literally allow you to copy what we do. Like, a lot of things say, don't copy us. We want you to copy us, because that's how you're going to see the results. And we take this all the way through zero to creating your ad campaign, making it live, all the way down to reporting and testing ads. So in that, Tyler learned a 91 module course. We broke that bad boy down to 18. And that's 1 to 10 minutes long. On the social strategy side of things, boom, we broke that down into 10 little modules. So this is not an intimidating thing. If anything else, by design. It is meant to be simple for you or anyone to execute, because remember, when Tyler started this, he had no experience. He was still in college. So if Tyler can do this as a just out of college kid, anybody can freaking do this. Like, anyone can. So any questions on anything that we've talked about yet, feel free to put something in the chat. We can do this real-time dialogue. Otherwise, we can move on to the next section.
Hey, one thing I would add in terms of simplicity, and and Tyler and Rob can speak to this, that as they were recording, I would listen in and hammer them about focus on team, focus on team, focus on team, simplicity, simplicity, simplicity. If I didn't understand it, they had to do it again, because it had to be that easy and simple to follow. And I am not a tech guy. Most of the people on this call, or at least on your team, you have somebody who's social media savvy, who's tech savvy that can do this. But I can speak from my own watching and reviewing all of this as we did it, that I had to be able to understand it before we were able to turn it loose to you guys.
And I can actually speak to that because Tyler and I created this course twice. One entire time, and then Steve's like, yeah, I don't think that's as good as it should be. And I was like, oh my God, are you kidding me? But of course, we knew foundationally we wanted to deliver the best thing. And sometimes you have to be willing to put version 1.0 out there and have someone say, you know what, you guys can be better. Here's version 2.0. So what you're seeing is actually the second version of this course, where we layered in more examples from the Make and Bacon, more screen shares. And the reason was, as Steve said, he wanted this to feel like we were speaking to marketing directors and team owners and say, listen, this isn't just a bunch of theory stuff. This is exactly what the Make and Bacon are doing. Here's our creative. Go ahead and create your own version from this. So yeah, there was a lot of work that went put into this bad boy, to say the least. So let's move on to number 3. And this is one that I specialize in, Tyler specializes in, Steve specializes in: how to do more with less. I'm an entrepreneur who's bootstrapped my company for the last 7 years. Someone once said to me, Rob, if you ever hope to get paid to do what you love, you better be doing it already. So you know what I did? I taught myself podcasting, video, hosting, social media marketing, throwing events, apparel, becoming an editor-in-chief. Like, I taught myself everything. And so often it's easy to say, you know what, we just don't have the resources, the big teams, or the other companies out there. Well, guess what? Your customers don't care about your excuses. They expect you to deliver on the same level for every other brand that they see out there. So how in the world do we make this happen? How do we do more with less? And the answer is quite simple. You need to follow the right system and have the right strategy. Because I'm guessing, by a show of hands, how many of you have a written social media strategy? My guess is very few, if anyone. Once again, why is that important? Because when you have something written down and you can go by, you can follow that same process every single time. It would be like a pilot who doesn't have a book that shows him the process he needs to do every single time. That would be crazy. Why would a pilot fly an airplane without following a process that says, here's what you need to do? The same is true for our marketing. And by having the right system and process, what that allows you to do is to execute more efficiently, better, and you know it's aligned to your goals. So you can do more just by saying, I'm doing the right strategy. So Steve, I'm going to start with you. What are your thoughts on doing more with less?
Well, I think one thing I'd say to every person on this call, especially those of you who are Ultimate Toolkit teams, that is a system to sell tickets, to drive revenue. This adds to that system in a way that is way more efficient, way more productive to be successful. We have one of the largest staffs in all of summer collegiate baseball. There's 9 people on our staff in Macon, and 6 of them are ticket salespeople. Tyler technically is not a ticket salesperson, but he drives a healthy amount of revenue. So we looked at it and said, we absolutely positively, if we're going to succeed, we have to have people in the right seat on the bus doing the right thing. And I think Rob's done all right with following a system and a process and not making this a crapshoot. I can tell you with any future team I get involved in, any future consulting work I do, the toolkit system is there, but this then becomes the icing on the cake, the extra steps to make sure the toolkit system works and done in a really cost-effective manner.
So Tyler, I'm going to move this over to your end. You are a department of one. You're doing social, you're doing paid strategy. So you understand what it's like to do more with less. Can you share a little bit more about your experience?
Sure. From the beginning, I mean, like we've mentioned a few times already, we started with nothing. So when we first started selling tickets, I was saying to myself, how I'm going to sell tickets to a sporting event, to a team that's never played a game, and we can't really tell the experience of something that's ever happened. So I had to get really creative with coming up with things that how am I going to show the value and the experience for our potential fans for our tickets without ever playing a game. So, taking things from pop culture references. Steve always likes to quote that I took one of our emails, I voiced over, recorded on my phone in my car, and clipped it with some videos during the holidays our first year, and sold a couple 105-game plans. I mean, that's making more out of less. So having a team already playing and already having content, being able to show the value. You don't have to produce a $1 million video. It's something simple of clipping and showing the fun times people are having, the great experiences, and showing the value that your team provides. Goes a long way. It doesn't have to be super produced and have video editing that costs hundreds of thousands of dollars. It can be very simply done. Teaching yourself Adobe Premiere or iMovie or Final Cut Pro or something like that. Those types of things, and having those in your back pocket, being able to create that stuff, and just a quick little YouTube video goes a long way. And it did for us here, especially having nothing in our first year. Now we've played for a couple of years. It makes it even easier.
And the one thing I would add in terms of the having more or doing more with less right now, in this environment with the coronavirus, just about everybody has laid off their sales staff. Owners are questioning whether those salespeople should be brought back, when they should be brought back. Who knows when we're going to play? As much as I love salespeople, and I've been involved in sales my entire life, talk about doing more with less. This is you're investing way less. And quite frankly, you are generating more sales, more revenue than a salesperson would. And you don't have to deal with the body, the health insurance, the benefits, and anything else that goes with it. So as you go forward and as a team, whether you're playing a winter sport starting in 3 months, or you're playing baseball in the spring starting in 7 or 8 months, this is absolutely more with less in an environment where I speak as an owner. More with less is critically important.
All right, so what we're going to do now is move to number 4. If you have any thoughts or questions, feel free to drop it in the chat. What we're going to talk about now is how to create highly engaging social content. This is an area where I'm an expert in because I create content for a living. So the key to this is highly engaging, because so often if content sucks, no one cares. If no one cares, you're going to get no organic reach to it. So all of a sudden, here's what people say. You know what, Rob? Social media just doesn't work for us. Do you think it's social media, or do you think it could be you and your crappy creative that no one cares about? Because here's the fact of the matter. When someone jumps on their Facebook feed or their Instagram feed or on Twitter, the content your team or organization creates is going to be up next to fantasy football, trick shots, people on vacation, Barstool Sports, ESPN, political stuff. Like, your competition isn't just the companies around you. Your competition is the entire world of content. So now all of a sudden you have to say, oh, wait a second. Why would I stop on our piece of content when instead I could just see Steph Curry making a 90-foot shot? That's the reality of the situation. So what this really forces you to do is be more intentional about the content that you create. And one thing that is a default to everything that I do is have fun. If you take nothing else from what we say today, if you add more fun to your content and marketing, I guarantee you, even right now, that you will be better, because people want more fun. Fun is the thing that we're missing in our lives. And I can tell you, the brands that have the most fun are the brands that people look forward to hearing back from. And you know a brand that people look forward to hearing back from? the Making Freaking Bacon, because you know why? I love that name, Making Bacon. Tyler's doing stuff with Kevin Bacon. He makes it as fun as he can. And here's the thing. When you're making it fun, you know what I'm not doing? I'm not just jamming ticket sales in your face. We're having fun. We're having fun. We're talking. We're being a community. Oh, by the way, you want to keep this party going? We got a 3-game pack. You and your friends, your family love to come here. All of a sudden, you see it as a value add from this relationship you've created with this team because their brand voice is good. They make things fun for you. Everything's not always serious. Everything's not just sales. So have fun. And then number 2, follow the strategy and be intentional about it. If you only started by creating one piece of highly engaging content a week or per day, good, because 1 is greater than 0. And then all of a sudden you're like, well, if we can create one piece of good content, do you think we can create 2? Probably. Boom. So that's what I want you to do, is to start thinking about the content wheel that you're creating. So how do you create these highly engaging pieces of content? We talked about it. It's the content mix, the 5 to 7 to 10 different things that your brand or team can talk about to engage your fans. Because as much as a lot of teams don't want to hear this, most people don't give a crap about the game. Tyler and Steve, you guys know about that. While there is an element of we're going to give real-time updates for the game, not everybody only cares about the game. So Tyler, I'm going to jump this to you. Tell me what you do during the games to make it fun, win or lose, because it's really hard when you're losing.
Yeah, exactly. So especially when it comes to like real-time stuff, you're looking at Twitter, Instagram stories, Snapchat, stuff that's instantaneous and isn't going to pop up like an algorithm on Facebook or Instagram, where it might pop up 2 days later and they might not go, oh, it's the 3rd inning and it's they're down 3-0 and it's from 2 days ago and it's not relevant. So we try to have fun, like Bark in the Park night. We're tweeting, woof, 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 bark, and then parentheses and, the score. So it's not just like, oh, it's the top of the 8th and we're winning 9-3. It's something more interesting and engaging than just giving the score. So we always try and do something unique. We do throwback night. We throw back to the Making Peaches, which is a team here in the 1960s and 70s. We pretend we have no idea how to use Twitter. It's, we're back in that day that didn't exist. So we're like, we don't understand what this is, but, and we're just updating the score with that. So having fun with it. And I'll give a real-time example of just having, ridiculous things you can put out there. You never know what's going to do. I saw a minor league baseball team tweet that if, they got 1,000 likes, their social media manager would get a Slam Diego tattoo. Like, oh, that's kind of funny. That got about 4,000 likes. I'm like, what can I do that's funny? So I tweeted on ours. If this tweet gets 1,000 likes, our marketing intern will get a Kevin Bacon tattoo. I did that at 3:30, and by 5 o'clock, it was already at 1,000 likes. Ended up getting to 2,500. So it's stupid things like that. You can take it from someone, hey, it's a good idea. How can I put my spin on it? You don't have to be super original. I mean, there's always ideas to take off of and get inspiration from, but things like that, that really have nothing to do with selling tickets. But I think I looked over 300,000 people saw that tweet and people were like, holy crap, there's a team called the Making Bacon. So it was gaining new followers and people never heard of us before. So it's having fun, doing unique things like that. And it's just as easy. It's out there and it's super simple, especially some of these teams. I'll give you an exact number. We only have 1,500 followers. And I'm sure a lot of your teams, you have, close to 100,000 or more, or somewhere in between that. The potential's there. It's just coming up with those creative ideas and taking action on them.
So Tyler, here's what I want to know from you on this is the importance of this fun and engaging content as it relates to the more ticket sales oriented content. How do those two blend together?
So I mentioned this already, but I think it's going back to the jab, 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 right hook. I mean, getting people to follow you with the jabs and the engaging content relating to your brand and developing that relationship with them wanting to follow you. So when you slam home that right hook, whether it's your friends and family 4-pack or a mini plan or season tickets or whatever you decide that you really want to sell, you think's appropriate, it makes it that much easier to sell because people are following you, they're engaging with you. Like, oh, this looks like a good time. They have fun online. That's something we want to associate with. And you're not always hammering over the head. Because like you said before, Rob, if you're always posting ticket sales or buying our merchandise, people are going to read right through that because it's become a blur. Like, hey, all you're ever doing is asking to buy. It gets old. So being able to have a great mix of getting people engaged with your content, with the fun and engaging, the memes, the great content that people really enjoy and people are sharing all the time. So then when you do ask for that ticket sales ask, it's such an easy sell from there. It's going to be a lot easier than posting 5 times a week about, hey, buy our tickets than, maybe doing that once or twice a week or even less.
Steve, anything you want to add?
Yeah, there's actually 2 things I want to add. Number one is, from what I learned early on and what Tyler has shown and what Rob has shown, is the more people engage in your content, it's going to sound like a Yogi Bearism, the more people engage in your content, the more people who see your content. So it's critically important to be fun, engaging, interesting, and unique, and get that shared, because then as those people share, Facebook algorithms, Twitter algorithms, Instagram algorithms know and recognize that the content you're creating, more people are interested in, so they'll show it to more people. So that just exponentially improves your ROI. The second thing I would say, and this is more targeted towards senior executives and owners, for the first maybe month or 2 that Tyler was on board, I said, Tyler, tell me what you're sending out. Because quite frankly, it was my name essentially attached to it. So I wanted to make sure I trusted him. But I have not asked Tyler, haven't questioned it. The only rule I think I gave Tyler early on was, if you think it might offend people, don't do it. We're a sports team. We're not in a position of offending certain people. But other than that, just go with it. Go with it, run with it. Let's see what happens. And the stuff that gets more and more engagement, let's keep doing. And some of the goofy videos Tyler would do early on were phenomenally successful and carried forth. So at this point, I haven't asked Tyler what he's tweeting, what he's posting in 2+ years because I trust him. And I think that's important for senior executives on this, or people who are going to be having someone else execute your social media. Give them the structure, give them the guidance, and then turn them loose.
And here's the last thing I'll add to creating highly engaging social content. If you're not currently using video in some capacity, you need to be doing it. Why? This is how everybody is consuming things now. It can be a little bit of intimidating. Oh, we don't do video. We've never done it before. Well, guess what? You got to learn, because guess what gets the most amount of organic reach? Video. What gets the best engagement? Video. Well, guess what gets the best results? Video. Think we see a pattern here? Video, video, video. So if you're not doing it now, start with this. Create your first video. See what happens. Oh, that wasn't so bad. Rinse and repeat. So here's the last thing that we're going to talk about before we get to the Q&A. What opportunities are currently in front of you? So despite what the world wants to tell us about everything ending and nothing could happen and no one's growing, that couldn't be further from the truth, because there are gigantic opportunities right now. And there's 3 of them that I identified. You have the opportunity to get fans excited to hear from you. Number 2, you have an opportunity to build your community. And number 3, you have an opportunity to sell tickets right now. That's right. Even with no games going on or fans in the stands, you have the ability to sell tickets. So Steve, I want you to go with this. Tell us a little bit more about the opportunities you're seeing right now.
Well, I think the one point you said, I think, is critically important. If you have opportunity to engage fans. I go back to in March and April when the first shutdown first started. I think it was the University of Kentucky basketball radio guy. He literally would do play-by-play of his 2 dogs eating dinner. And it was hysterical and got thousands of likes. He would do play-by-play of his 2 dogs playing with a toy. And that's the kind of stuff, even when you don't have games going on, get creative, step outside of the norm and think about what does that take and how does that take to do it? And then now we did it, and Tyler executed it as soon as we knew we were going to play. We got word we were going to play probably in late April, I think. So we had about 2 months before our season started, and Tyler launched the advertising, the digital campaigns, and we sold probably 300 5-game plans in that 2-month period, and matched everything we did in 2019, even though we lost about 2.5 months where we really couldn't market anything because we didn't know what was happening. So those of you who are waiting, I think we're going to play, I think we're going to play, I think we're going to play, I don't know if we're going to play. For God's sakes, get off your butt, start marketing. It doesn't cost you a lot. You can get people engaged. You don't need a schedule. People will buy. They will be very excited to buy. And I haven't been to all of our Making Bacon games. Tyler has, but he can tell you the fans have all looked at us and said, thank you so much for playing games. We love coming here. So you've got to get going and get people, get engaging and get marketing and get your products out there and give people a reason to buy, because I can tell you they absolutely positively want to.
And I'll add on to this. You know what? This does not happen overnight. This is a process that takes time. Tyler and I worked together for months building the social media strategy. The course that we created, candidly, I believe it's going to take between 2 and 3 months for someone to get through it and implement it correctly. Why is that? Because you're going to hear it the first time, and you might get it, but we want this to become a machine for you. So think about where you want to be when things start to ramp back up. It doesn't mean you couldn't blow through all of this, boom, just like this if you dedicated over a holiday break like Tyler did. But I just know the way that people consume these different things. And boom, it's going to take time for you to get your social media strategy together. And then boom, it's going to take time for you to get your Facebook ads together. And it's going to take time for you to test this stuff. And it's going to take time for you to get better and better and better. So wouldn't it be better to have the time now to do it than later? Because here's the thing that I continually heard of. Rob, you know what? The time just isn't right for us right now. All right, cool. Well, guess what? Games are going to come on. And guess what the next thing is going to be? You know what, Rob? The time just isn't right for us because we're ramping things back up and the games are back on. All right, cool. 6 months later. Hey, what about now? You know what, Rob? Timing's just not really right. We're in the middle of our postseason. And it's like, crazy. There is always an excuse for why the time isn't right. Except when I look at the current landscape right now, what is the one thing all of us have an abundance of? Time. Literally, we have so much time that people are like, I just have nothing to do. I've got nothing to do anymore. So the time for you to invest in your systems and your foundations and your process is right now. This isn't me, the sales guy. This is me, the business owner who is practicing what I'm preaching. Right now, I'm investing in the systems and processes of my business. Why? Because it's predicated around growth. All we want to do is help you grow. Guess what the Making Bacon are doing? Growing. Guess what Bacon Sports is doing? Growing. Guess what Rob Cressy is doing? Growing. Guess what we are not doing? Make an excuse for why this is not the right time. Tyler, you have anything to add?
Mute myself there. No, I think that's a great point, Rob. It's just we have so much time now, and this is the perfect opportunity. And what Steve says is don't wait. We continue to run ads when everything's shut down just to see people. I mean, people were still going to our website. They just weren't ready to pull the trigger because they didn't know what was happening, and what the future was going to hold, right? That's everyone's excuse. These are unprecedented times. We don't know what the future holds. But as soon as we gave them, hey, we're playing, we're doing this, I mean, it blew up. And like Steve said, we made it for lost time, and we basically matched, or if not, went over our numbers from 2019 for what we want to do with ticket sales. So I think now is the time to get this stuff in place, start acting now and getting people to go to your website. It may not pull the trigger now, but hey, come the time when you announce when you're going and you can retarget those people who have already been to your website. Boom, that's an easy sale. You're not starting cold. This is the perfect opportunity to start getting people interested, start getting them to go. They may not pull the trigger, but you're at least getting them in the sales funnel and getting the chance to retarget them so you're not waiting to the last minute.
All right, Steve. So how can people take things to the next level with us? What can we do to help them? Talk to them about the course we created and how they can take advantage of this.
There's a couple of things that I think are really important. First of all, this course, once a team signs up for it, they get it forever. So if a marketing director leaves in 6 months, the next marketing director can take it and absorb it and get engaged and do it forevermore. So this is not a over and over and over type thing. Secondly, because the landscape of digital ticket sales changes pretty regularly, we'll constantly be adding things. We'll add an email marketing component. We'll add a inside sales training component down the line. We'll add other digital tools to help you sell tickets because we know that people need it and it's always going to be constantly changing. And then the third thing I would say, and those of you on this call who are toolkit teams, you know that I and Tyler and Rob will always be available to ask questions. I always say I'm not an attorney. I don't charge by the 10-minute phone call or the 5-minute email response. So if you are one of the people who decides to take this digital ticket sales class, at any point you can call and ask questions. At any point you can call and ask for advice. Consider us your free consultants on this. There's also a Slack channel that you can share within the program that you can share questions and advice and ideas with everybody else who's taking the class. So the goal behind this is, how do we help you succeed doing more with less? And it's all centralized in one place. Rob put the link in the chat, but it's really easy. If you go to theultimatetoolkit.com and look under sell more tickets, you'll see the digital sales class there. And if you've got questions, my phone number is there, my email address is there. Absolutely shoot me a note.
And one other thing that I will add is, this is predicated around growth. So we are going to help you create a written social media strategy. Why is that important? Because by the end of it, you will have something tangible. On the paid social side of things, what are you going to have? You will tangibly have ads running. So this isn't something where you go through it and you're like, yeah, we don't have any results from this. By design, when you execute every single module with the action steps, you will get the desired result, because we've already done this for you, for the Making Bacon. So we want to help contribute to that growth. So go to theultimatetoolkit.com or hit up Steve, Tyler, and I. Jump on a call. We would love to be able to help you out in any capacity that we can. So now let's open this up at the end to Q&A, any thoughts or questions that you have in general about anything.
If nobody asks a question, I'm going to start calling you guys out that I know are on the call. So Jeremy, you better ask a question. Corey, you better ask a question.
Otherwise, I guess we have to assume everybody knows what they're doing.
Greg, questions? Anybody else? Brian Stein, I see you there. You better ask a question.
Well, let's put it this way, and I'll share a little nugget of information for you guys. I am someone who sits in the front of every conference, and when they say, who wants to ask a question to the speakers, I raise my hand. Why? Because this is your opportunity to get advice and expertise from people who know what they're doing. This is something that traditionally companies pay me to give them advice for what to do on this stuff. So this is a free opportunity for you to say, Rob, how in the world do you do blah, blah, blah? What do you think about podcasting? Like, I'm an expert in this space. So feel free to take advantage of these final 7 minutes, because it's free for you and it will make you better. If not, no skin off my back. I'm good.
It's like college classes. Everybody's afraid to ask a question.
Cool. Want to give a shout out to Brian Stein. Doesn't have a question, but this is great on the website now. Cool. Other than that, Steve, I would say, Steve and Tyler, let's wrap this up. Do you have any final thoughts? Steve, I'll go with you first.
I know everybody always has questions once they get off these type of things. So if you go to the website, you'll see my phone number. You'll see my email address. Absolutely shoot me a note. I'm here to help.
Tyler, moving over to you.
I think the most important thing about this is some places you're paying for this type of stuff. You're paying someone to do all this stuff for you. We want to actually teach you how to do it so you can do it on your own and save money in the long run. I think that's really important. You see a lot of digital marketing agencies, you pay thousands of dollars to run your ads, and you're paying them on top of it. I think this is a great opportunity to keep it in-house and teach yourself. And like Steve said, have it for life. So it's a small investment up front, but it's going to pay off in the long run.
And on my end, I'm rooting for you. If there's anything that I can do to help you out, let me know. You can hit me up on all social media platforms at Rob Cressy. I'm super active on LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram. I host 4 podcasts, one about sports marketing, one about leadership, one about sports betting, and one about sports technology and fan engagement. So there's a plethora of ways that I can help you. All you got to do is take action and reach out. So we want to thank you for attending this. We're going to be doing this on a monthly basis. Once again, if you're interested, go to theultimatetoolkit.com/online digital ticket sales course. Other than that, sending tons of good vibes your way. Hope you have an amazing day.